this extreme supercar action is driven by Dunlop tyres. Welcome to Aldo Scribante and round 5 of the extreme supercars driven by Dunlop. As always, down on the Eastern Cape circuits, we have a massive crowd, and they've come in their hordes to be entertained by a category that has shown at every single circuit we've been to so far that there is big crowd appeal. And you've got these really, really awesome supercars in full flight. And here at Aldo, we're expecting more of the same. But before we get into the action here at Aldo, let's go back to round 1 at Swartcops and see what happened at the Passion for Speed Festival. This was way back in January, the first race weekend of the year. It was great to see the Scribantes joining in and joining Franco along. So Aldo and Silvio were now a big part of this field of cars. Nice new liveries on some of the cars as well. We saw from Ricky Giannacaro's point of view, there in the Lamborghini, Exo would be piloting his Aston Martin at the first round, and was definitely looking for a chance to get through on his arch rival in terms of the championships. Remember, there are big championships up for grabs. We've got the GT class and the GT3 class. We've got an A-plus unlimited class, and all of these competitors will be fighting hard to see if they can get to the front end of the overall championship. Initially, it looked like Franco Scribante was going to have the pace, but the Porsche slowed up on the very first lap and dropped right through the pack. And in the background, you can see him slowing down there big time. Unfortunately, that looked like it might be the end of race 1 for him. That left Jonathan du Toit out front, fighting hard. 3 Lamborghinis pushing it to the limits. There you can see big problems for Franco, and whatever that issue was, it might be terminal. As he headed back into pit lane, we'd have to see if he'd come out a bit later on, but it left the rest of the pack to fight it out amongst the usual contenders. Marc du Toit in the Silver Dream Racer, looking just to try and secure Class A and B honours. If he was able to get up into the front end of Class A, he was going to be bumped up in that 430. It's a slightly older car he was in, but certainly a car that has got great pace around the circuit and showed great pace that weekend. Exo and Gianni continued their battle all the way through. 007 Aston Martin trying to close things down right from the word go and right to the end. And the two of them were trying to close in on Aldo Scribante, who made a welcome return into supercars after a little bit of a season off. Him and his brother deciding that they were not going to be fighting it out for a while. They've been a welcome return to the extreme supercar field. Silvio was a long way up the road, but this was a superb little battle between these 3 cars and that Bisque Nissan, definitely in amongst the usual contenders. G&H Transport, Ricky Giannacaro were fighting hard. I think it was a G&H battle, it was just on his tail. The stablemate was right there as well, in the form of Nicky Dix and Ant London. The two of them were in Porsches. Eventually, the quicker cars started to catch the back markers. No one was going to catch this man though, and the first victory of the season was going to go to Trans-Africa Racing and Strudale's conglomeration team there. And at the wheel of that car was Jonathan du Toit. And with Dunlop joining the party as the official naming rights sponsor of the Extreme Supercars, the Dunlop team were in full effect and in the house to ensure that all the cars were shot correctly for race 2. As they headed down towards turn 1, Jonathan du Toit was looking to try and get the same kind of start he did. And at the back of the field, we saw Franco Scribante coming back through the field as well. Great to see the team sorting that car out and giving him a chance to be back in the fight. It didn't take much longer than about half a lap for him to get up into that top 5. At 2 corners, he was in the top 6 and was looking to try and get through as rapidly as possible. On the tailpiece there of the Lamborghinis and of the Aston Martin, it wouldn't be too much longer for that Porsche to hit the front. You know what the straight line speed of that car is. And particularly here on the longer straights up towards turn 5, he already made it up into that top 5 in that first half a lap, looking to get through on Gianni Giannacaro as they came into Kenwood. Right, and then into the left-hand flick. Watch for the power down the little short straight towards the final corner. He had a squeeze through, get past Gianni. No, Gianni kept him out and was not going to give it up without a fight. Realizing that he has got an advantage here to try and open up a little bit of extra points over the hard-charging Porsche, but it was to no avail. As much as he tried to defend, it was not going to be easy. The front battle was between 2 Lamborghinis, and Silvio Scribante with a slightly better start this time, able to hang on to the back end of the man who knows Swartcops like the back of his hand, Jonathan du Toit. Bit of a change up between the Porsche and the Lamborghini at the back, as well as Blunden and Giannacaro swapped out positions. Eventually, we saw Franco Scribante squeezing through on his cousin and finding a way through there on the Semza Lamborghini of Silvio Scribante. And the Porsche was now up into second, looking to hunt down his arch rival and potential championship rival all through the season in Jonathan du Toit. hasn't completed another lap. That was the intention shown from Franco Scribante. Aldo Scribante, on the other hand, was looking for a way past on Gianni Giannacaro. Still hadn't found it, and the big crowds at Zwartkops were being entertained at the Passion for Speed Festival, as they always are. The opening round of motorsport in South Africa takes place at the Zwartkops International World of Motoring, and eventually it would see Franco Scribante in race 2 get to the front. Got ahead of a hard charger, Jonathan Vettori. Just not enough straight line speed. Great handling from the Lamborghini, but it's the straight line speed of that Porsche that just gives him a slight advantage and gave him the victory for race number 2. We headed down to the Mother City for round 2 of the Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop, and it was a slightly bigger field with a couple of local contenders thrown into the mix. A nice wild card field coming into play at the Killarney International Raceway. And we also saw the welcome return of Stuart White in the Inter Africa Mining Lamborghini, leading things out down into holes for the first time. How's that for a field of supercars? Of the GT cars that race down in Cape Town, joining them, being part and parcel of a big field of nearly 30 cars on track in the Extreme Supercars. This is exactly what the Cape Town crowd came to see, and they were going to be entertained big time, including a couple of seasoned campaigners in the Cape Town Massive as well. Jason Ibbotson out in the Ferrari 488. Marcel Angel would be joining him as part of the Autohaus Angel team. Budnick was back again in the big Viper for Bucketless Racing. Great to see that V10 machine on track. But Stuart White is the lap record holder here at the circuit, and was going to be a difficult man to beat. He's in full flight in that Italian mining Lamborghini. He certainly knows exactly where to put that car and how to get the lap times out of that car. And that's the gap he was able to pull right from the early stages. Great to see Arnie Neveling, though, in the mix as well. Arnie Neveling in that Bobcat Audi. Definitely a man to watch out for. Just ahead of the season campaigner here at the circuit, Marcel Angel. As they came across the line, you can see a little bit of chopping and changing in that mid-pack. Nice to see as well in Porsche of Franco Scribante, but not performing like we expected it to see. Great mid-pack battles continued all the way through, eventually seeing Franco Scribante get up to third place behind Jonathan du Toit. The two of them were hard-pressed to try and catch Stuart White, who disappeared at the front end. So it was a battle on for second place. And Jonathan du Toit was eager to ensure that he kept the Porsche behind. And it was going to be a hard task, because that straight line speed of the Porsche, as we all know, is really, really deadly. As well as that works in the tight stuff. It's on this long back straightaway that Franco was going to have the advantage. And there you can see just the advantage he had. Coming down into the braking point, getting through and finding his way up into second place. Would there be enough time for him to catch Stuart White? No, there wouldn't. Stuart White comes through there in amongst the back markers, and the checkered flag was out for race 1 victory, going to the Inter Africa Mining machine. A good effort there from White to beat out Franco Scribante for second and Jonathan du Toit for third place. And that battle would go right to the wire. Jonathan du Toit just finishing behind. And a nice run from Arnie Neveling, beating out Angel. And a nice, fantastic effort in the background there from Exo in the closing stages as well. Zolile Letlaka would be a big factor. Will he play a big role now in race 2? Starting from pole position was Franco, this time with Stuart White alongside him. Now there'd be a little bit more even Steven. Not even come through the pack, and Franco would have a little bit a better chance off the line. And he was looking to try and take advantage of that as they headed down towards turn 1. Look at the straight line speed there compared to the Lamborghinis of that Porsche down towards holes. Ibbotson was on the inside. Gianni Giannacaro had no answer to the 458 as it came through on the inside of turn 1 to move up 1 position. Slotting left, right and centre, and Lamborghinis versus Audis for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th place. Two boys from PE, Aldo and Silvio. And a spinner right in the first lap of race 2. That's a big one there for Ibbotson. Parked on the sideline and slamming straight into him was the BMW there from the Coastal team. With Neon du Toit at the wheel, so 2 Cape Town drivers out. Red flag was called due to those cars stuck at turn 2. A couple of recovery vehicles needed down at turn 2 to get them back out of harm's way. Both drivers were okay, although the front end of that BMW would have to be rebuilt. He'd be expected to race that BMW later in the season as well. On the restart though, once again the Porsche got the whole shot down towards turn 1. Led out on a Holzhoek. Much better start though coming from Arnie as he dived on the inside and looked for a chance to get up to 3rd and outgun his Stradale Motorsport teammate in Jonathan du Toit. Du Toit was looking pretty dangerous and came straight back at him into turn 2, but had to fend off the attack coming from Silvio Scribante. Side-by-side action in the background as well as they came through. The rest of the pack of cars, as I said, almost 30 of them started the day's racing, and there's about 25 of them still left on track, fighting hard at this point in time. This one though from the tour. He's going to try and consolidate as many points as he can in this early stage of the season. That's exactly what he was doing with the two Scribantis behind him. Franco out front is going to be a tough man to beat. And even though Stuart White, as I said earlier on, was the outright lap record holder, he was looking to try and get that outright lap record now in saloon cars and sports cars. And the one that he had was in a Janetta and in the Endurance Championship. The flag came out, this time in the Extreme Supercars. It was a victory going the way of Franco Scribanti. Stuart White came through the second place. Third place was Arnie Nevlin, and fourth place Jonathan DeToy. Join us after the break for more from the Midterm Report. Welcome back to action from our midterm report of the Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop. Round 3 headed to the famous Kyalami Grand Prix circuit for a bumper round of Extreme Festival, joining both the national and regional categories all in one huge weekend that saw a huge crowd out at the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit as well, which is always good to see. And the best part about it was how many cars had joined us for Extreme Supercars. The usual contenders were at the front end, as we've seen all season long so far, and in the first 2 rounds there were a couple of battles that would be resumed here at Kyalami. So Lili Latlaka would certainly be using the experience he's gained on the endurance side here at this famous circuit to be a little bit higher up than what he had been at the first couple of rounds of the season. Good to see a couple of new cars joining the pack as well. It was Jonathan DeToy who was looking to try and hang on to the top 2. Remember, he runs in GT3, so the GT3 is the national championship of this category. The rest of the cars all fighting for honours in the regional championships and national challenge championships that run as part of Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop. There's a little Latlaka and a bucket list viper of Chris Budnick. They're pushing hard to try and close the gap on Scribanti, that's Silvio Scribanti, who was just behind Jonathan DeToy at this stage. But Latlaka had found some great pace this weekend and was able to just squeeze that gap down. Bit of a change up in the G&H Transport stable as well. We've seen some new cars coming out of the G&H Transport stable, with Ricky Giannacara changing from an Italian brand into the McLaren. At the front end though, the Italians versus Germans were in full effect, and eventually Stuart White would find a way through there on Franco Scribanti to try and lead things out for the closing stages. Scribanti was not going to let him have it all his own way and would fight the Inter-Africa Mining Lamborghini right to the line. And that Scribanti machine was pushing hard. Unfortunately, we lost the Lotus of Joubert early on, and as I said, there is a great shot of the former sponsors of this class, G&H Transport's Ricky Giannacara, in his new British Stallion out there. Problems for Silvio Scribanti. He spun out at the bottom of the mine shaft. That's a big move and certainly definitely something you don't want to be doing in a Lamborghini. Double yellows would mean everybody else would not be able to overtake there, and eventually a red flag would be called. Stuart White would then eventually be given the victory for the day ahead of Franco Scribanti, and the GT3 class win would go to Jonathan DeToy. They're all lined up for race 2 now, and all eager to go and hopefully stay on track this time. No off-track excursion expected. Great to see the work being done there by Scuderia Scribanti to get Silvio's car back on the circuit, and he was eager to get a little bit higher up than where he was going to have to start from in race number 2. Lights went out and we went racing down towards the famous Crowthorne corner, and yet again the Porsche showing its legs at the front of the field. But the Lamborghinis closed him down rapidly right from the word go, and there were 4 of them hunting him down. I'd say there were 5, because actually that Audi A8 is basically a Lamborghini under the bonnet there. But Arnie Nevlin's Bobcat car was certainly flying much better this time, just ahead of his stablemate Jonathan DeToy. The two of them would be fighting it out all the way through this incredible dice in the Kyalami Grand Prix Circuit S's. Over back, Gianni Giannacara was fighting with Audis, was fighting with Lamborghini Trofeos. Great to see Hammond joining the field again, just ahead of Ricky Giannacara in the McLaren. These two cars would have an epic one right to the end. Speaking of epic, well, it was chopping and changing as we saw in all the rounds so far that these two have been at each other's throats. And once again, Scribanti was found wanting because Stuart White just seems to have an advantage. Even though that straight line speed of the Porsche would see Franco probably get by on him down the main straightaway, he was going to try and hang on and give Inter-Africa a win at Kyalami. Ricky Giannacara was trying to close down on Nathan Hammond. That's a car that Ricky Jonakar has piloted in the past, that GT3 Trofeo Lamborghini. Oh, and right in the closing stages, Stewie returned the favour. I said that Porsche in the straight line would get to the front, and Arnie Neveling was looking for a way through on the Bobcat car. Stuart White, with a lap to go, hanging on for dear life over Franco Scribante. Scribante would pass him on the main straight away, as he's done almost every single lap. But then Stuart White decided, last-ditch effort to try and get up the inside and squeeze through. It was perfectly timed, and he managed to get ahead. I don't think Franco expected that one. Stuart using the electronics and the downforce of that GT3 spec car to get through. And that A-plus machine now led out into the final lap. It was looking like a bit of a fight on for second as well. Almost 2x2 action on track. Further back, Budnick maintained the gap over the two Lamborghinis from PE. And the two Scribante boys would have to finish up behind the V10 Viper. But Stuart White's timing was to perfection. And it was going to be a victory to the young man in that Inter-Africa mining. The Blue Beetle comes across to take the victory ahead of Franco Scribante, and that was a fantastic fight that we expect to see at the next round again. GT3 Honours went to Jonathan du Toit, yet again beating out his stablemate. And then we made our way to round 4 at Zwartkops. In that round 4, Charles Laranges would make a welcome return. He climbed into the AMG Mercedes-Benz. Nice to see that at the home of AMG Driving Academy. The front end would not see the Porsche. And no sign of Franco Scribante for round 4. So it was all up to Jonathan du Toit to take advantage of that and maybe give Stuart White a little bit of a taste of his own medicine. Stuart White is a difficult man to beat at any circuit, and at one point in his racing career, he's held the outright lap record at every single circuit we race at on the Extreme Festival. Neveling in the Bobcat Audi was all over the back of the range, looking for a way through, but he had a very, very quick and hard-charging Zolile Latlaka on his tail, giving him a bit of a run as they went up towards AMG corner there at turn 5. Behind that, Gianni Giannakara had certainly found some great pace and was looking to try and use that in the Nissan. He was piloting for the day for the Bisque Racing team. That, the usual contenders in the backpack, were having a little bit of a fight of their own, including the Curvette Porsche of Nicky Dix. Behind him was Maurice Jackson in the Audi. That was a GT4 spec Audi, so slightly diminished power compared to the one that Arnie Neveling is up a little further up the road. And the Padgett Racing Lamborghini suddenly closed the two of them down there with Mark du Toit at the wheel of that car. The fight continued all the way through around the 2.1k circuit, and as always, big crowd at Zwartkops for Extreme Festival. And Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop were putting on a show of note. GT3 Honours looked like they were going to go once again to the man from Stradale Motorsport and Trans-Africa Racing, Jonathan du Toit, his teammate, doing a superb role as Arnie Neveling found some problems right in the closing stages. The Audi looks like it just went into limp mode, and he had some problems to try and get it back into pit lane. Jackson continued to fight. Du Toit tries to close that gap down, but the Lamborghini just didn't quite have the pace of the Porsche and the Audi out front. And at the back end of the field, Jimbo Jonakara climbed into an Audi as well for the first time. Great to have Jimbo back on circuit. But when the checkered flag came out, once again it was Stuart White at the front end of the field, winning A+, second place overall, and GT3 Honours went to Jonathan du Toit. After that recap, we're now back at Aldo Scribante for round 5 of the Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop. As I mentioned at the top of the show, how awesome is it to see such a big crowd coming out? And they were certainly looking forward to big entertainment that is always provided by the Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop.
Ricky, looks like you got a new set of wheels for this weekend.
Yeah, we've come out with the McLarens, a big change from the Lamborghinis. We switched over to GT3 McLarens, myself and Anne Blunden. So baptism of fire, I'll be dead honest. We've never driven GT3s before. We're gonna go try and give it our all. But they are faster than the Lambo, you know. I mean, I got a big thanks to GNH Transport, Isaacs Peace for sorting us out with the cars. But hey, we're looking forward to this, Dave. This is gonna be something unreal, GT3 all the way.
Yes, we just had GNH Transport do the 2 McLarens, and first time out, just shaking them down. Should be great.
How's it going out on the track?
Lovely. You got to learn how to drive them. Obviously, they're different to what I've been used to racing Porsches, but once you start getting confident, yeah, they're very nice.
always nice to see the way the guys change up their cars and possibly go into some new machinery. The Dutoy brothers have done that throughout their racing career, as has Arnie. He's been from karting to single-seaters and now into GT3 spec cars. He'll be looking to try and fight the wind, because how is that wind pumping in the background? Look at those Dunlop flags pumping across the circuit, which is going to make it very, very difficult in certain parts of the circuit. Down towards turn 1, you're going to have a bit of a side wind, which means it'll blow you into the corner. The S's will be tricky, but a good start there from Arnie Neveling as he heads off down towards turn 1 with Stuart White on his tail. Behind that comes Jonathan Dutoy, first of the GT3 spec cars, and then Zolila Letlaka tucked in behind that. It's Nicky Dix, who follows very closely by Ricky Jonakara, first of the McLarens there, into about 6th place overall as they go into the S's. And then behind him, it's Jonathan Dutoy's brother, Mark, who's not in the Lamborghini this time, back to the old Silver Dream Racer 430. And that V8 Ferrari will now have to try and fend off the attack. Slightly quicker cars in amongst him and all around him. Coming out of the hairpin and moving up into Class A+, Arnie Neveling was setting the pace. Between the two of them as they headed up towards Dunlop corner for the first time. And I'll tell you something, Jonathan Dutoy holds his own amongst these slightly more powerful cars in the unlimited category he races with. Even though he's in the GT3 spec car, he certainly uses the advantage of that Lamborghini's ability around racetracks to be in the mix. Lula Letlaka is doing the same thing on his tail, but he overdoes it big time in towards the S's and spins out. It's going to allow the Porsche through, so a bit of a change up as Charles Oranges dives on the inside. He's in the Porsche this weekend, not in the AMG Mercedes-Benz we saw him in a couple of minutes ago at Swartkorps. He decided to change things up there slightly. Back into the Porsche as well for the number 15 car. Jimbo Jonakara piloting that one, climbing out of the Audi we saw him in earlier on. The two McLarens definitely getting to grips with those cars are Ant London and Ricky Jonakara. Much better pace out of them. Great pace coming out of Jonathan Dutoy, but not enough to catch these two. And Arnie Neveling was definitely showing Stuart White the way around this circuit. Not sure what Arnie had for breakfast, but I definitely want some if I'm going to come and race here at Aldo in the next couple of races. Looks like a mechanical issue there for Ricky Jonakara heading towards turn 1. Looks like it might be a bit of a braking issue there on the car, but he's off track, that's for sure. He's got out of harm's way though, and as the leaders make their way down towards turn 1, there were no yellow flags, so I think Ricky got back on track, maybe just trading that car back into pit lane, see if they can get it sorted out down at GNH Transport. Charles Rangers going to close things down on XO. Not going to be easy to do in a slightly lesser powered Porsche. Stuart White though has definitely found some pace, and look at how he is now hounding it, looking for a way through as they head towards the checkered flag. 2 corners to go, and Bobcat Audi is looking for its first victory of the season. Stuart White would love to spoil it for him, but I don't think he's close enough. And no, he's not. Arnie Neveling in the Bobcat machine is going to come through there. Brilliant bit of driving there, and that Cosco Bobcat team are going to be happy with that performance. First victory to Arnold Neveling as they cross the line. They're beating out Stuart White. Let's catch up with Ricky and find out what went wrong down at turn 1.
Well, we started the race off a bit slow and we were trying to pick up pace, and then coming on the main straight, I think I was doing about 235, 236. I put my foot on the brakes and the disc exploded. So it was a fun ride into turn 1 with no brakes. But yeah, it's a bit of a pity. It's one of those things, what can we do? Fortunately enough, the car's not hurt and we get out scot-free with just a disc that's buggered. So we're going to see if we can put another disc on and see if we can get out for race 2.
Race 2 now, and will Arnie Neveling be able to hang on and take a double victory ahead of Stuart White, bring himself into contention for the championship? White basically leads with no Scribuntes at this famous Aldo Scribunti circuit. That was a big loss, but we'll look forward to seeing them at the next round at the East London Grand Prix circuit. Lights out, and down towards turn 1. Arnie Neveling getting a good start, but Stuart White's going to keep him honest down towards turn 1. Looks like the Trans Africa racing machine there of Jonathan Dutoy going to slot possibly into 3rd. And he looks for a chance now. Yes, he does. And Zolila follows him through with Charles Oranges right on his tail. So there's 3 GT3 cars there. Pretty evenly matched. The A+ Unlimited cars 1 and 2 on track at the moment. And you can see they've had to turn the lights on here at Aldo as well. The dying light of the day is allowing these cars to go into basically what they would normally do if they're running in the endurance championships. We caught up with XO just before the race to find out what his plans are for the weekend.
Yeah, well, it's a tough weekend for us. You know, we normally get better weekends than this. But yeah, the Stradale team is strong this weekend, and we're battling with a couple of issues. But yeah, some days you win, some days you come second. It's all right.
And second place is not a bad place to be behind Arnie Neveling, who's got some serious experience behind the wheel as well. He continues to lead out over Stewie, so that battle continues into the dying light you had, Aldous Gavanti. Our camera's doing double time here to bring us this action, but that's why the headlights are on most of these cars. GT3 still in the hands of Jonathan du Toit. Zolino Letlaka still hanging on to fourth overall. Bit of a change up there, as you can see, with Charles Ranges in the Porsche. First time out for him in that new Porsche. Speaking of changes in Porsches, Ricky jumped into Jimbo's car for race 2, try and score some points in Class A with his teammate right behind him, but we managed to catch up with Stuart White just before the race started.
Yeah, it's absolutely great to be back at Aldo Scribante race. So, I mean, it's always nice coming down to the coast, and it's always a very well supported race. So great to see all the fans out here this weekend, and obviously myself and Arnold having quite a nice day. So I think that's adding to the weekend. So let's see, one more to go. Let's see if we can beat him out in this one. He's been really quick all weekend. So yeah, well done to him, and also thanks to my crew for never giving up. We're going to fight back, that's for sure.
It's going to be a hard fight with a double win going to Arnie Neveling. He wins out in the Bobcat and Stradale machine, and a great effort there from Stuart White to take second place in the unlimited class. GD3's once again going to Jonathan du Toit. He's securing that championship. He's basically got one hand on that trophy if he keeps it all together for the next couple of rounds. And speaking of the championship, let's have a look at the overall championship standings right now. A+ Arnie Neveling leads out over Stuart White, and London leads Class B. Class A is Charles Ranges, and Francis Gavanti there in third place. But overall in GT3s, it's Jonathan du Toit. Let's catch up with him.
Yeah, look, I mean, fantastic day. I took all 3 wins. My main opposition being Ari decided he was going to go chasing Class A+, and he wasn't chasing, he was winning. So well done to Ari for his win overall. But yeah, very happy with the GT3 win. Good for the championship, so that's really fantastic. Again, the car worked fantastic thanks to Team Stradale, and looking forward to East London in about a month's time. So it'll be great down there.
All this extreme supercar action is driven by Dunlop tyres.